time now for our business news with Stephen Carroll. Hi, Stephen. Now, you're starting with the UK government's decision to approve plans for a new nuclear power plant.
After months of uncertainty, the €21 billion Hinkley Point power plant will now go ahead. France's EDF is to build and operate the 2 next-generation EPR reactors at the site, with 1/3 of the financing coming from Chinese backers. Prime Minister Theresa May had delayed a decision on the project after taking office in July. The UK government now says it's given the green light with conditions attached. Josh Vardy has the details.
Approved. The controversial €21 billion Hinkley Point nuclear power station will now go ahead after the UK government imposed so-called safeguards for future projects. 2/3 funded by French energy company EDF, with around €7 billion remaining euros from Chinese nuclear company CGNPC, the Hinkley Point project has been through a difficult development. When EDF eventually rubber-stamped it at the end of July, new UK Prime Minister Theresa May slammed on the brakes and ordered a review over concerns about Chinese government involvement. 7 weeks later, it's got the green light.
So what we've done here in Hinkley is required that the EDF, the principal operator, guarantees, makes a commitment that they won't dispose of their stake without the government's consent unless and until the plant is built. And in future, all other nuclear power stations will be subject to the same regime.
French Finance Minister Michel Sapin welcomed the decision to go ahead, calling it a major milestone in Franco-British industrial and energy cooperation. However, there are concerns in the UK and France over mounting costs. UK business leaders say there's no guarantee the plant can provide good value for money. Meanwhile, it's a risky move for mostly state-owned EDF, at a time when their finances are already stretched through merging with loss-making nuclear plant builder Areva. All of the firm's other next-generation nuclear projects are behind time and over budget.
Well, despite that positive news for EDF, shares in the company down around 0.75% in Paris a short time ago. More generally, markets digesting the news that the Bank of England left rates and its bond buying programme unchanged at its most recent meeting. London's FTSE 100 up slightly on that news. Small gains in Frankfurt too, but Paris just dipping into the red.
Next now to Argentina, where foreign entrepreneurs have been assessing the effects of pro-business reforms.
Argentina doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to business, but President Mauricio Macri has been trying to change that since he was elected last December. France 24's Claire Williams has been speaking to some French entrepreneurs working in Buenos Aires.
Et voilà.
10 years ago, Jean-Edouard de Rochebouet bought a vineyard in Mendoza. He plans to produce 600,000 bottles this year. 2/3 of them will be exported. So when President Macri lifted export taxes, Jean-Edouard said it felt like a miracle.
For example, to export wine, I had to pay 5%. President Macri got rid of that on December 10th, as soon as he became president. Getting back that 5% has made us more profitable. It's huge.
The Frenchman says he's now able to invest in his estate and buy new machinery. In the office next door, another Frenchman is pleased with the president's pro-business policies. Vincent Chevalier runs a travel agency. Macri's reforms mean European tourists benefit from a weaker peso, and Argentines no longer have to pay a tax when they travel overseas. Vincent says his plan to open a hotel should now get off the ground.
For 2 or 3 years, the hotel project was suspended because foreign investors were reluctant to invest in Argentina. I think that now Argentina's opening up to international markets. That will help us get investors back on board so we can build our hotel in a vineyard.
32-year-old Dominic Cos has set up 4 businesses in Argentina. He sells accessories online and in his shop, which he opened last March. With or without President Macri's reforms, the businessman says he's had to be patient and pay for local expertise.
I would advise any young person thinking about coming to Argentina to use a lawyer and an accountant to help them set up their business. It's an extra cost at the start, but it's worth it in terms of the time they'll gain and the problems they'll avoid.
Doing business here as a foreigner isn't simple, but that hasn't stopped some taking up the challenge. There are 250 French-owned companies here in Argentina.
That's France 24's Claire Williams there in Buenos Aires. Stephen, just to wrap up, a music streaming service, Spotify, that many of you might know, has passed a milestone.
The company says it's reached 40 million paying subscribers worldwide. The news confirms Spotify's position as the market leader in streaming music in an increasingly crowded market. Apple Music said earlier this month that it has 17 million paying users, while Jay-Z's Tidal has just over 4 million. There could be more competition on the way for Spotify, though. Internet radio provider Pandora has signed a new licensing agreement with Sony and Universal Music that may allow it to offer more on-demand services.
Stephen, thank you. Stephen Carroll there with The Business. It's now time for the press review.